Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Almighty Allah, the entirely merciful and the specially merciful. Dear viewers across the globe, I greet you with the best greeting that has ever been used on this planet. A greeting that has been used by messengers of Allah, a greeting that had been used by our beloved messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace be unto all of you. Ameen, ameen. Welcome again. Welcome to the treasures from the Holy Quran. Welcome to take as much as you can. One of the styles of the Quran is asking people questions. And this is very frequent in the Quran, here and there and in many pages and many situations, so that this would raise the level of their understanding, because they will pay more attention, they will try to answer the question, they will be more reflective, and that is what we teach people to do. We teach teachers to do that at schools. The more you have reflective questions that would raise the level of understanding of their students. If you ask them questions that are tougher to them, so they will think deeper and deeper, they will be more engaged with the lesson. And that is one of the targets of the Quran. The Quran, because it is 600 pages and more, of course, you are not encouraged to read all of it in one night. You are encouraged to read slightly, yet more frequently and more frequently and more frequently. So when you read a small portion, as we are going to do today, you will have the opportunity to think deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's what will change people. For example, in many situations, and this is one of the situations in the Holy Quran, that it invites you and it motivates you to think, because you need to answer. For example, in chapter number 32, Surah As-Sajdah, ayah number 18, there is one question that here you need to think of it, all of us. أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. Here's the translation, rough translation of this. The one who had been a believer, is he like the one who was not a believer? And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers this question and would make this comment to say that لا يستوون. They are not equal. There's no way for them to be equal. The one who had been consistently a believer is not similar to the one who has been consistently unbeliever or a disbeliever. They are not equal. And the scholars and the companions before the scholars, the companions before the scholars, some of them answered this. They are not equal. Bluntly, very direct answer. They are not equal. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself said, La yastawun. So some of the scholars say that they are not equal in this life, in this world. They are not equal at the time of death. They are not equal at the time of after death, in the day of judgment. This is a very important question, because all the time when you are a believer, all the time you need to remind yourself that you and the disbeliever or you and the non-believers are not equal. Perhaps your shape is the same physically, you may look alike each other. However, in reality, in the essence, they are not equal. And what is more important is the essence, not the outside shape, not the physical shape, but on the focus, their hearts, their minds, their thinking process are different. If a believer takes this route, a disbeliever takes another route. So this route would lead to guidance, and the other route would lead to disguidance. So they are not equal. They are not equal, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself answered this question. He asked us this question to think of it, and then he gives us the answer. They are not equal. لا يستوون. And I wish that you memorize it. It's very easy. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. And all the time when you raise this question, in every aspect of life, ask yourself, is the believer who believes in the Almighty Allah and in all His attributes and in all His names, perfect names, is this person similar to the one who has gone beyond the limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us as believers? Is the one who thinks differently and he acts differently and his belief system is incorrect? Is he equal to the one whose belief system is correct? No way. It's impossible. And it's unfair. Everybody will say that it is unfair to make comparison between those people because they think differently, they act differently, they speak differently. You find a believer, for example, almost every 5 minutes, even less, he or she would mention the name of the Creator, Almighty Allah. In every occasion, if you count an average number for a believer that he remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of this universe, at least you will find it exceeding more than 50 times a day. So you can see that the connection between the believer and the Lord. So all the time, the more you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more possible that you will act according to the prescription that He gave for us, the Quran. So the more you are connected with Allah, the more you remember His words, the more possible that you will act as He commanded you. And the less connected with Almighty Allah, the more possible that you will be away from the right track. This is the right track. And you will find people are deviating day and day and day and day because of less remembrance of Almighty Allah. It's an amazing question. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. It's very important for the believer himself to remind himself or to remind herself that they are different. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not treat them equally, particularly on the Day of Judgment, because in this world, every human being enjoys the mercy of Almighty Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives sustenance out of His mercy, gives sustenance to every human being, not only humans, but also animals and insects and other creatures. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them sustenance. The only thing is that needed from you is that you need to do your job. You need to work, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guarantees that He will give you sustenance, whether you are a believer or not. And this is an example, one of the hundreds and thousands of examples that shows the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon His creatures, no matter whatever their beliefs are. So here we really focus on this, and it is very important for parents and for teachers and for educators to spread this concept of asking questions, because these questions will let the people think, and we want every student to think But in the thinking, there are two directions, the right direction and the incorrect directions. We want to lead the students to think properly and in the right direction, not in the wrong directions. And this question and many other questions that came in the Quran, and perhaps in the coming episode, I will cover another question that will help you and will help me, would help all the believers to think in the right directions. And step by step, we will find ourselves approaching the correct belief. And that's why, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined this book, the Holy Quran, as a book of guidance. If there is a definition for the Quran, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined it in the beginning of the second chapter, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So this book is guidance. And in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that guidance for the believers. And in other verses, guidance for people, for all people. So if you're looking for guidance, this is the book. So people, when they talk about the Quran, all the time they should focus on this issue, that it is a book of guidance. And as I said, this is an example. When the Quran asks you the proper questions, it guides your way of thinking, so you think in the right direction. And this kind of thinking, it will guide you to the proper thinking process and the proper results. If you start asking yourself one question after another, all these questions are meant to direct you to guidance. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Guidance for those who fear Allah. Guidance for those who are mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Guidance for those who always remember Almighty Allah. Unlike those who don't access the book, don't access the Quran, or even when they access it, they do not read it in an unbiased way. And fortunately, they read it with a social background that may hinder them to think in the right directions. And that's why one of the first things to do in life is that you should be unbiased, to remove these obstacles, to be unbiased, which is not an easy thing. It requires some sort of struggle. It requires some sort of jihad. That's what is known as jihad al-nafs. You struggle with yourself to remove these obstacles, to remove these problems from one's mind, one's heart. And in this way, by removing this, your heart would be blank and you are open to receive the guidance from Almighty Allah. But unfortunately, people, when they deal with the knowledge that is available in the world today, they don't deal with it properly. For example, they deal with the knowledge that they receive from their surroundings, from the environment around them, or from the professors, or from their parents. They deal it with as the same level when they deal with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the biggest mistakes when they approach the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they approach it with the same approach when they reach other knowledge that are man-made knowledge, forgetting to make this big distinction from the very beginning, that to differentiate between man-made knowledge and divine delivered knowledge. The knowledge that we get from Almighty Allah is knowledge of the Creator. The knowledge that we get from humans, all humans, no exceptions, are man-made knowledge. It means it's from the created, from the people who, even if they have the best knowledge, they would never reach the level of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the creator. These things, if they are not very clear in the mind of a human being, that means he or she, they need some help. They need some support. And that's why when we reflect upon the verses from the Quran, we'll find in the first verse, Surah Al-Fatiha, al-Kitab, the opening of the book, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in it, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. From the very beginning, we declare it very openly to every human being. According to the Quran, we say that إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, you alone, and we refer to Allah subhanahu, you alone we worship you. We don't worship anyone else except you. You alone we worship. And then at the same time, you alone we seek guidance, we seek support from any other one. So we seek support from you, Allah, and we worship you, Allah. So after worshiping you, this kind of worship requires a lot of patience, a lot of effort, a lot of work. So we need support. We need someone to give us support, and the only one who can give us this support is Almighty Allah. This is summed up in this verse, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. So again and again, these questions are very vital for every human being, particularly for a believer. So first, Allah decides, after asking these questions, He answers these questions. Yeah. So the question is, أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا. If someone is a believer, has always been a believer, is he equal to the one who has been disbeliever, to the one who has been astray from the main path? This is the one who is a believer, and this is the one who is a disbeliever. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said they are not equal. And this is a good topic that you can do a lot of research. What are the things that they are not equal in? Is it in the world, this world that we live in? Is it when we are on deathbed? Is it after death on the Day of Judgment? They are not equal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never ever on the Day of Judgment deal with them equally, because they are different, so they need to be treated indifferently. We do thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this guidance and for showing us the truth and for helping us to adopt this truth and to spread it among humans so that they will be guided. We need to do our part and we teach it to the people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent the whole Quran for all humanity to be guided, but they need to be given some support and some illustration and some explanations so that they would be able to adopt what the believers have already adopted. Ameen, ameen. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصل اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.